A story that began not with guilt, but with a question. No one called it justice. Not yet. Job lived in a land where there were no palaces, but there were roads. Where there were no thrones, but there were fields. Where there were no great speeches, but there were great days, one after another. He was not a prophet, not a king, not a warrior. He was a man who simply lived rightly. They respected him, not because they feared him, but because they knew he does not lie. They trusted him, not because he promised, but because he did. He had herds, he had servants, he had barns filled with grain, and most of all, he had children. Sons and daughters who gathered together, ate, laughed, celebrated, sometimes as if life would last forever. Job looked at it and didn't speak lofty words. He simply remembered one thing: what is given can be taken away. So after their feasts, he rose early, while the house still slept, while the yard was still quiet, while the shadow still lay upon the ground. He offered sacrifices, not because he knew someone had sinned, but because he knew a person is fragile, not out of fear, out of responsibility, out of love. His faith was not a show, it was a habit, quiet, steady, unnoticed. And for a long time, nothing broke. But before anything happened on earth, something happened in heaven. Not thunder, not lightning, a conversation. It came to pass that the sons of God gathered to present themselves before the Lord, and among them came Satan, not as a king, not as a hero, as one who walks the earth and watches where human strength hangs by a thread. And the Lord said to him, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered calmly, "I have been walking to and fro on the earth. I have been roaming in it." He did not hide it, because he knew people, knew fear, knew how easily goodness becomes a condition. And then the Lord said, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him on the earth. He is blameless and upright. He fears me and turns away from evil." It was not bragging, it was a statement. Satan did not argue. He did not say, "Job is fake." He did not say, "Job is bad." He said something else. "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a hedge around him, his house, his work, his children? You have blessed everything his hands touch. Take it away, and he will curse you to your face." This was not an attack on Job. It was a challenge to faith itself. A question: is love for God possible if everything he gave is taken away? And the Lord answered, "Very well. All that he has is in your hand. Only against him himself do not stretch out your hand." And Satan went away, not in triumph, not in anger, but with permission. Job did not know this. He did not hear that conversation. He did not see heaven. He did not know his name had become an arena. He simply lived a day like hundreds of days before it. And then the messengers began to come. The first ran in, breathless, ash on his face, eyes wide as if he were still running. The oxen were taken, the servants were killed, only he escaped. Before the words could settle, another came. Fire fell from heaven. The sheep were gone, the shepherds were destroyed, only he escaped. Then another. Raiders attacked, the camels were taken, the servants were destroyed, only he escaped. And at last, the last one. He did not run, he did not shout, he simply stood there, still, as if he understood, the moment he speaks, there will be no way back. His voice broke, not at once. "Your sons and your daughters." He fell silent. He drew in a breath as if there wasn't enough of it. They were in the house, together, at an ordinary table. A wind rose, sharp, unexpected. The house could not endure. The walls collapsed, the roof fell, and no one came out. He did not look at Job when he said the last word. All of them. Job stood up, not abruptly, without a cry, as if his body still could not believe it was real. He tore his robe and fell to the ground, not for theater, not for people, because sometimes the ground is the only place you can hold on. And he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." No one applauded. No one understood. His words were not strong. "For my sighing comes instead of my bread, and my cries pour out like water. For the thing I feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quiet, no rest. Trouble has come." They were the only words he could say so he would not break at once. But the trial did not end there. And again in heaven a conversation took place. Not a new one, a continuation. The Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? He still holds fast to his integrity, though you incited me against him to destroy him without cause." Satan answered, "Skin for skin. All that a man has he will give for his life. Stretch out your hand, touch his body, and he will curse you to your face." And the Lord said, "Very well, he is in your hand. Only spare his life." Job did not know this, not this time either. And suddenly his body became his enemy, from the crown of his head to the soles of his feet. Pain that has no place because it is everywhere. Itching that does not stop. Wounds. Shame. Job sat in ashes outside the city. He scraped himself with a piece of pottery, slowly, because sometimes movement is all that remains when meaning is silent. His wife looked at him and could not keep silent anymore. She did not see a lesson. She saw a man who was dying. "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." Those were not words of evil. They were words of exhaustion. When pain lasts so long, it begins to sound like truth. Job answered her softly, "You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we receive good from God, and shall we not receive evil?" He did not curse God, but something in him began to wear away. He was still breathing, but he was no longer living as before. The world did not vanish. It simply lost its support. The days stretched slowly, as if time had stopped moving forward and began circling around pain. Job no longer thought about tomorrow, only about how to survive one more night. Not faith, the illusion that people endure such things easily. Then his friends came, Eliphaz, Bildad, Zophar. They walked a long way. When they saw Job from a distance, they stopped, because they were not sure it was him. They wept. They tore their robes. They sprinkled dust on their heads, and they sat beside him. 7 days, 7 nights, no one spoke, and it was their best gift, because silence is the only language that sometimes does not lie. But silence does not last forever. Fear cannot endure quiet. It wants an explanation. Job spoke first, and these were not prayers. He cursed the day he was born. He said what most people think but are afraid to say aloud. Why give light to those who see no meaning in it? Why give life to those for whom it has become a burden? Job's words were not beautiful. They were honest. And the friends answered, one after another. Eliphaz spoke carefully, as if holding something fragile in his hands. "Remember, Job, whoever perished being innocent. Maybe you missed something. Maybe God is showing you a reason." Bildad spoke more harshly. He needed order. God does not pervert justice. If disaster happened, there is guilt. Maybe your children, maybe you. Zophar did not hold back anymore. "Repent, and it will pass, for God is more merciful than you deserve." And at that moment, Job understood. They did not come to be with him. They came to rescue their picture of the world. Because a world where the righteous suffer without cause is more terrifying than any tragedy. Job looked at them and felt how loneliness becomes a second skin. "I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth." And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God. I shall see him for myself, and my eyes shall behold him, and not another. He did not deny that God is great. He denied something else. He was not lying. He said to them, "You are miserable comforters. You speak about God, but you do not know his heart. You defend justice, but you lose mercy." And then Job did what they feared most. He began to speak to God directly, not in a whisper, out loud. "Show me what I am guilty of. Speak, I can bear the truth. But do not force me to live in the lie that I deserved what I did not do." The friends were frightened by his words, because it shattered the simple rule: good people, good things; bad people, bad things. And in Job's hands that rule crumbled like the ashes he sat on. The nights dragged on. Pain would not let him sleep. And in the darkness, when there was no one around, Job thought about the most frightening thing, about silence. Not the silence of people, the silence of God. What is man that you make so much of him, that you set your heart upon him, visit him every morning, and test him every moment? Will you not look away from me for a moment, long enough for me to swallow my spit? He remembered. Once prayer was like breathing. Now prayer became a scream that did not echo back. And here the real breaking began. Not when he lost his property, not when he buried his children, but when he realized God can be silent. And in that silence, you can either run away or remain. Job remained, not because it was easy, but because otherwise he would betray everything he had lived by. And at last, the wind rose, the sky darkened, sand whirled. The storm came not as punishment, as presence. And the Lord spoke out of the storm, not to explain, not to justify himself. He did not answer a single why. He asked Job, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Who set its boundaries? Can you command the sea? Do you know the way to the light? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loosen the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the constellations in their season or guide the bear with her children? Do you know the laws of the heavens?" Question after question, not to humiliate, but to show the scale. The world is larger than human pain, and pain is not the center of reality. Job listened, and for the first time in a long while he did not argue. Because he understood, he did not receive an explanation. He received a meeting. And Job said, "I spoke of what I did not understand, of things too wonderful for me. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you." The trial did not become logical, but Job was no longer alone. After the storm, the world did not become simpler. The wounds did not vanish instantly. Memory was not erased. The nights were still long. Job woke before dawn and for a while waited for the pain. Sometimes it came, sometimes it did not. But now Job knew, pain is not proof of punishment. People began to come to him again, not with advice, not with explanations, just to be near. And he no longer needed answers, because the most frightening thing he had already survived. Job learned to live with the fact that not everything will be understood, with the fact that faith is not always clarity and not always peace. Sometimes faith is simply not breaking the bond when nothing is holding you. He looked at the sky and did not wait for signs, because he knew God is not a mechanism that reacts to the right words. And now when Job spoke about God, he spoke more quietly, not because he doubted, but because he learned to listen. He knew there are questions with no answers, but there is a presence greater than all explanations. And with that, Job went on, not as one who understood everything, but as one who remained faithful even when faith promised nothing. Then the Lord spoke to the friends, and their correct words turned out to be incorrect, because they spoke about God but did not speak with him. Job prayed for them, not as a victor, as a man who knows what it is to stand in silence and not run away. Life returned, not the way it was, different. Job again had a home, had children, had abundance, but now he also had memory. He knew faith is not a formula, not a guarantee, not a contract. Faith is to remain when you could leave. And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he had prayed for his friends. And this story does not promise that the righteous do not suffer. It says something else. Suffering does not always mean guilt, and not everyone who weeps loses. The one who loses is the one who, in the silence, refuses to trust. The end of the story of Job.